Get out. Get out! You know I can be the motherfucking devil.
This movie was highly requested, and y'all gotta know I love y'all, cause you already know I am not a fan of this man's work. I had never seen this movie before and have avoided it like the plague, but dare I say, it wasn't that bad. Now, was it the usual bitter black woman trope? Absolutely. I'd be a fool to say that wasn't expected. I mean, duh. But this movie should serve as a warning. As a matter of fact, this will probably go in my personal list of You in Danger Girl themed movies because this is very much a cautionary tale. With that being said, I noticed some things while watching this movie and I have my thoughts. But before we get to that, it's time to recap. So let's get into it. As the movie starts, we meet one of our main characters, Melinda, sitting in the courtroom. Apparently, she's been up to no good because she received a warning from the judge that if she violates her restraining order again, she will go to jail for 40 days. The judge also requires her to go to counseling because clearly she's struggling with self-control. We fast forward to her meeting with her counselor. The counselor asked her why she was so angry. Melinda seems extremely bitter. And to figure out how she got this way, we have to go back to the beginning. So we rewind to the first day Melinda met Robert. It was a rainy day on campus, and as Melinda was running back to her dorm, she bumped into Robert, which caused her to drop her papers. Robert eventually found her dorm and brought back the papers she dropped. He also gave her some unsolicited advice about her paper.
Well, your basis is way off on the first 4 pages, and the facts of the Spanish-American War are wrong.
Robert offers to help her since he got an A in the same class, and Melinda reluctantly accepts help. As they study together in the library, they talk, and Melinda learns more about him. Robert was trying to build a battery that could recharge itself, and he seemed to be really passionate about it. Unfortunately, Robert's help wasn't enough because she still managed to get an F. Shortly after, Melinda's sisters came to campus to tell her that their mother died. Robert came to the funeral to support Melinda, but Melinda's sisters, well, particularly Brenda, weren't too fond of him. Now, initially, I thought Brenda was kind of rude, but as the movie progressed, I could see where she was coming from, though she wasn't a perfect character. Brenda tried to intimidate Robert by introducing him to Melinda's ex, who looked like a budget Chris Brown. As Robert tried to leave, Melinda came after him to thank him for coming to the funeral. She offers to take him home after learning he'd walk to her house. She drives him to his place. He stayed in a trailer gifted to him by his uncle. His parents were dead, and he was raised by his grandmother until she died. Robert consoles Melinda, and I guess being catered to during this tough time made Melinda feel safe. Safe enough to, well...
Yeah.
We fast forward to Melinda being interrogated by her sisters about Robert. They ask her if she's having sex, but she doesn't give them an answer. They warn her not to tell Robert about the money, $350,000 to be exact, and the house her mother left her. And what did she do? Yep, she told them. Robert told her about Prescott Industries. This company sought out people with great ideas and invested in them. The process was that if Prescott reached out to you, you had to meet with him right then and there. Melinda even helped him create a better name for his battery, Gale Force Wind. He promised her that they would have a condo in the sky along with a yacht and that they will be together forever. They even talked about having kids together. Robert runs game to extract funds from Melinda by saying he was worried that if Prescott called, he wouldn't have a way to get to him quickly. So Melinda buys him a car, a $24,000 Mustang to be exact. And it was around this time that Robert stopped being a present boyfriend. The only time Melinda would hear from him was when she called him. Eventually, Melinda's sisters, Brenda and June, got married and decided to move out with their husbands. Brenda warned Melinda that since they were moving, she'd have to get a job to cover the expenses of the house. Melinda gets upset about this, goes upstairs and calls Robert, and Robert sounded real different on the phone.
Hello?
Hey.
Oh, hey there. How are you?
And it rubbed Melinda the wrong way, so she decided to investigate. And this is where we are introduced to Melinda's crazy side. She sat in front of his house for a hot minute, and nothing seemed out of the ordinary until she saw a random hand hit the window and knew her instincts were right. Robert was in there.
Yeah.
So Melinda let out her crazy and destroyed his home. She was so busy trying to hurt him that she didn't realize that she'd hurt herself pretty badly. She had internal bleeding and ruptured her ovaries, so she could no longer have kids. Robert had the nerve to come to the hospital acting sorry. And this is where I started to like Brenda. If that was my sister, he wouldn't have made it out that hospital. They'd have to bring him a bed. Honestly, Melinda had done too much already. The signs were there at this point, and they were flashing bright. But this should have been where she left him for good. She could have taken the car back, called the relationship a loss, and moved on. But no, she heard him out, allowed him to play in her face, and they were right back together, like nothing ever happened. It wasn't long before Robert needed some more money. This time, it was for his college tuition. He lost his scholarship. We don't learn why. Apparently, Melinda didn't finish school. If she did, it wasn't clear because there's no more mention of her attending school. But yeah, she pays his tuition, $73,000. Look at him. He all behind her like it's tax time. Crazy work. And to thank her, he proposed with a gumball machine ring, and she accepted. And Brenda was pissed.
That man cheated on you and you almost died. That man is throwing out all kinds of red flags, and now you want to just go and marry him?
Her sisters tell her she's making a big mistake and they won't be there if she married him, and they stood on that. They weren't there for her wedding. Their marriage was just beginning, and Melinda was already in the hole, in more ways than one. After they're married, Robert wastes no time burning through the rest of her money. As the money dwindled, so did his affection and patience for Melinda. Melinda started to feel like she was being tolerated. The time had come for them to both work and manage the bills, but Robert offered nothing but excuses.
I'll get a job, babe. I'll try to help out.
Try.
But you know it's gonna be hard for me to study and work on this?
Robert tells her he needs more time, and she goes along with it. Robert went up to Prescott Industries, but they were annoyed at his constant letters and told him to stop sending them. Melinda got a job at her friend Sarah's work as an office assistant and was also working a second job as a janitor. Meanwhile, Robert was home still working on that battery and creating more problems for Melinda to fix and pay for.
This is my battery working. It's run the whole house.
Robert, did you talk to an electrician?
Why?
This crazy man fried the wiring in the house, and now Melinda was in the negative. Robert finally graduated, and Melinda thought she'd finally get a break since Robert had 3 interviews lined up. But check this out. Robert had been hiding the fact that he caught a charge when he was younger and was a whole felon. Crazy how he never told her this from the jump before she invested so much time, but more importantly, so much money into him. Listen, we are 36 minutes into this movie and I'm already exhausted, tired, through. Okay?
I know we're low on money, but I was thinking, if we mortgage the house, we can pay for the rest of my research on this and make it top-notch, a new design. I know it'll work.
This dude is draining this woman in every way possible. And what does she do? She mortgaged the damn house. The house that was paid for. And there he was, yet again, staring over her shoulder like it was tax time again. So let's add this up. Here's what we have so far. She bought him a car. He cheated on her. She crashed out and lost her ability to have children. She takes him back, pays his tuition. He messes up the wiring in the house, testing that damn battery. He finally graduates, but he doesn't tell her he's a felon, so he's unable to find a job. How did he even get into school or get student loans? And to make matters worse, this goes on for 18 of her good years. Crazy. Insane. Slowly but surely, Melinda started to resent him and their situation. We fast forward to Robert going up to Prescott Industries, yet again, and he runs into Diana, the same woman that he cheated on Melinda with that caused her to crash out. And no, this wasn't by chance. He looked her up, found out she worked for the company, and was hoping for a favor. He was always looking for someone to save him or do him a favor, child. He asked her if they could talk over coffee. Diana refused at first, but she eventually gave in and agreed to meet with him. Unfortunately, this meeting didn't end up as he expected it to.
I'm calling to inform you that you've been put into our system as a credible threat. You are not to send another letter to our office nor contact or visit any one of our employees.
Robert has a tantrum and tells Melinda that Prescott won't see him. Honestly, it's been 18 years, bro. What is your plan B? You got all your eggs in this one basket, and you're too old for this, my guy. There has to be other Prescotts. Melinda insists that since the battery thing is not going to work, he should find a job and finally help her with their household.
If you give up on me now, I got nothing left. Tell me you love me.
Shortly after, Melinda's sisters stop by to tell her they know about her mortgage in the house and that it's being foreclosed on. Again, Brenda was over Robert pushing Melinda to do crazy things for his crazy dream. But Brenda and June came up with a plan. The plan was they would receive advances from one of the clients they deliver for to catch up on the mortgage, and in return, Robert would have to help them deliver for free, and he couldn't flake or else they would lose the house. And you would think he'd be willing to help out since all of this is due to Melinda trying to support him and his dream, but child.
Promise us that you'll do this, Robert, and you'll do this right. Promise us. Yeah.
If he can't even keep a promise to his wife, then why would you? This was a very bad idea.
You know, I know how you don't love me the same. You're even trying to defend me.
Defend what? What is there to defend at this point? Robert calls himself being mad at Melinda, so he stops sleeping with her, which makes Melinda suspicious. Meanwhile, Diana starts looking over all the videos that Robert has sent into Prescott over the years. Brenda's husband, Calvin, tells Robert about a delivery he needed to do. The items had to be delivered by 11 that morning, and it was very important that the items got there on time. As Brenda checks the truck before Robert heads out, she finds a random wallet belonging to Diana. Everything was going well at first, until Diana called Robert to tell him that Prescott wanted to meet him at 11:30. So you already know what he chose to do. He went back to the house to get his battery. Calvin and Casey quickly find out that he was going in the opposite direction of where he was supposed to go, so they drove over to the house to get the truck. Shortly after, Melinda came in to confront him about the wallet Brenda found. At this point, Melinda had had enough and started to spaz out. He tried to tell her about Prescott, but Melinda wanted to know more about the wallet and the fact that he was around a woman that he once cheated on her with. Melinda tackled him in the yard, and shortly after, her sisters pulled up and carried her in the house while Robert set off on foot to Prescott's. During the meeting with Prescott, Robert was offered $800,000 for his battery, his notes, and his research, but he had to sign a non-compete. This deal was basically robbery. As broke as he was, and as much flack as he got from everyone, he made a good choice by not signing that deal. They were basically giving him chump change to take his idea, make billions off of his research, and prevent him from creating anything similar to what he'd already created. And you can just about guess how everyone reacted when he told them he didn't take the money.
Some random bitch that I caught you with before just happens to be in your truck. This house is getting foreclosed on, and you turned down an $800,000 check. Is this the bullshit you selling me?
Robert tried to sell Melinda one last dream, but this time, Melinda was over it and maxed completely out.
I want a divorce. Get out. Get out! You know I can be the motherfucking devil.
So Robert leaves and they separate. Robert finds work at a restaurant. The house gets foreclosed on, so Melinda moved in with her sister, Brenda. Robert stayed at a homeless shelter. Melinda eventually starts dating someone else, though she wasn't crazy about him or the idea of dating.
So there I was, out with a man that could pay the check, and yet it felt strange. It was like I was starting over, learning how things were really supposed to be.
While on her date, she sees Robert working in the kitchen and gets mad all over again.
There he was in the damn kitchen washing dishes. I wanted my $1,234,908.07.
We fast forward to Robert meeting with Melinda and her lawyer to finalize the divorce. Robert makes a final plea to Melinda to take him back and consider their marriage, but she doesn't budge, so he signs the divorce papers. We fast forward again to Robert calling Diana. He tells her that he's in between places and that he doesn't have a phone, so Diana comes to rescue him. Robert's always getting rescued by a woman child. After the divorce is official, Melinda, her friend, and her sister celebrate her divorce, but Melinda was unable to join in this celebration because she felt bad about her divorce and how Robert didn't achieve his dreams that she invested so much in. After Diana picks Robert up, she takes him back to her place. She tells him that maybe things were meant to end up this way between him and Melinda, and maybe Melinda wasn't supposed to join him on the level he was going to. Meanwhile, Melinda and Devin, well.
Yeah.
Sometime later, Diana gives Robert some much-needed good news. Prescott had agreed to do a bigger and better deal, a $75 million deal to be exact, along with IP ownership. After the deal, Robert came to Melinda's job not to beg for her back, but to give her $10 million and to let her know that he bought her mother's house back. And after all these years, all the losses, stress, and drama, she got her money back with interest, but she still didn't get the one thing she'd always wanted to go along with it, Robert. Melinda swiftly goes home to cuss out her sisters for forcing her to leave Robert.
Why did I listen to you? Everybody in this town knows Calvin has a baby in Ellenwood. And, well, Casey, you know what they say about you.
Melinda!
And there was more.
And you are too big to have such a little dick.
Melinda finds out where Robert lives and drops by in a trench coat. It was the same building that he promised Melinda they would live in. He lets her walk around for a second, probably terrified to tell her the truth that he was now married to Diane. And this sends Melinda over the edge.
Everything he said to me, he would take me to Paris. And there they were. He said he would take me on our private jet. And there they were.
It gets very dark from this point on. Everything that he promised her, he got it for Diana. This had to have been tough to see. Melinda eventually sues Robert and Diana, claiming that the battery deal happened before they were divorced. Additionally, Melinda started cyberstalking Diana. Melinda's sisters and Sarah all realize that Melinda is becoming deranged. We fast forward to Melinda, Robert, and Diana in court. Melinda loses the lawsuit, which sends her even more over the edge, and to add a cherry on top, Diana and Robert are granted a restraining order. This doesn't seem to make a difference because after the restraining order is granted, Melinda immediately violates it by running up to them and going off. After everyone leaves court, Robert and Melinda come over to Brenda's house. Melinda's sister warns them to hire security and to be careful because Melinda was capable of anything at this point. Sometime later, Melinda plots on Diana's wedding dress. She goes to the bridal shop, finds her dress, and pours acid on it, which prompts another visit to the courthouse. It's during this visit to the court that Melinda finds out that Diana had outgrown the dress due to her being pregnant. The judge gives her a final warning to stay away from Robert and Diana.
Would you feel better if he was really being honest and he really meant well?
I am not wrong.
Have you ever heard of something called borderline personality disorder?
Robert and Diana go on to get married. On their wedding day, Melinda's sisters and Sarah came to her house to make sure she stayed home and didn't crash Robert's wedding. That didn't work though, because her ass escaped out the window. And how her ass ended up in this boat, we'll never know. Why? Because this is a Tyler Perry production. But of course, Melinda found her way on the damn boat.
What are you doing?
You took the best parts of my life. And you gave that bitch my ring.
He tells Melinda that he loves her and always will, and she takes that and runs with it. She suggests that they throw Diana off the boat and move on with their lives, but Robert didn't want to participate. While Robert tries to take the gun from her, he accidentally shoots him, which gets Diana's attention. She forces the crew to jump off the boat. Diana sees her and tries to run away, but Melinda catches up to her and forces her to give her her wedding ring. Robert distracts Melinda and throws her overboard. He then forces Diana to get on the smaller boat and get to safety. Somehow, Melinda found her way on the boat yet again and began to chase after Robert with an axe. She eventually corners him and gets him good with the axe one time before she's tripped up in a chain tied to the boat's anchor. She's thrown into the water once again and drowns. And that's the end of the movie. And here are my final thoughts. This movie was both triggering and exhausting. I had all the usual feelings that I get when watching a Tyler Perry film. Irritation, annoyance, utter disbelief. But despite all of that, I have to admit, it wasn't that bad. I know. And hell, I couldn't believe it either. Because after watching the movie, I Googled who helped Tyler Perry write the movie, and I was surprised, for some odd reason, to see just his name. This was a cautionary tale. This is what can happen when you choose a partner over your best interests. Robert sucked the money, the life, and the energy out of Melinda for 18 years. The warning signs were there, and it all started once he learned that she had money. She bought him a car. Mind you, the only reason she got the car was because he was worried that Prescott may call him and wouldn't have a way to get to him in time. Soon after she got it for him, he started to cheat and act differently. She crashes out, injures herself, and loses the ability to have kids. At this point, this was a clear sign to leave him alone. Their being with him would only lead to the destruction of her own life. She takes him back and he convinces her to pay for his tuition, knowing that he was a felon and that he wouldn't be able to get a job after graduating. For 18 years, he doesn't work. He continues to reach out to Prescott, but doesn't even attempt to figure out a plan B. He drained Melinda of all her money, convinced her to mortgage the house, and when the house was being foreclosed on, he still didn't want to work to help her save the house or at least find another place to stay. He wasn't even worried about where they were going to go once they lost the house. His only priority was the battery. Not his wife, not their well-being, only their damn battery. Robert used Melinda as a resource, and it's hard for me to believe that he saw her as a human being, as his wife. He didn't care how hard she'd worked to keep a roof over their head, what she'd lost to feed his dream, or even what she wanted. Melinda was a damn fool to give him 18 of her good years. After Brenda tells her about the wallet and she finds out it belonged to Diana, Melinda was done, so Robert did what he knew to do. He leeched onto Diana to help push him closer to his ultimate and only dream of getting discovered by Prescott. And as misfortune would have it, Diana swooped in at the right time and benefited. She didn't have to stay in the trenches with him for 18 years, drain her pockets, or lose her house. She got everything that Robert once promised to Melinda, and she didn't have to suffer for it. I believe that this was the major source of Melinda's bitterness. It wasn't about Robert as much as it was the hurt she felt seeing another woman get everything that was promised to her without the struggle that Robert put her through. And all of this could have been avoided if she listened to her sisters from the get-go. While it was great that Robert felt indebted enough to give Melinda $10 million and buy her mom's house back, like I said before, she always wanted him more than anything, and even after everything she gave, she never had him. Now, her ass is sitting in the bottom of the ocean, while her wealthy ex-husband and his new wife build their new life off the back of her sacrifices. Anyway, that's it for this review. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. There won't be another recap next week due to the holiday, so I want to wish you guys a happy Thanksgiving in advance, and I'll see y'all in a little bit. Bye!